I know you love content about pants and I love creating it for you. We are going to see 2 new pairs of pants. We're going to see a lot about the fitting, the muslin, pattern changes. I know that's really helpful, and an alternative way to sew on a waistband, flat front, elasticated back. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I'm excited to share 2 brand new pants. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, Lifting Pins and Needles, you know I usually come back to a pattern and sew it again. I like taking my time to get the fitting right, to do all that process, and then the second round is usually much more enjoyable. It takes a little less because then it's just about the sewing, taking into account that your size hasn't changed. So if I have more than one video about one pattern, just be assured that it's not the same content. I always create new and unique and different content, even if I am showing you a pattern I've already made, because I think that's really helpful. So don't think it's all the same as last year's video. I made 2 new pants. I had made 2 already last year when the pattern was released, and these are the poppy pants from Sinclair patterns. These poppy pants are made out of a beautiful linen rayon blend, more linen than rayon, super structured, and the details of these pants are amazing. I had to only add a tad of extra length to the front rise, about 3/8 of an inch, otherwise the fit was perfect. There is a flat front elasticated back feature on these pants, which makes them super comfortable. The original pockets on the pants are slanted, but I made these ones curved as a hack just because I was filming a video on how to sew these types of pockets, but you can't really tell. It's black. No one will know that these are not the original pockets. A tapered leg, and I think the print on these pants make them stand out a lot. I think people would look at these pants when I wear them out and love them. I also made a pair of capris, which is also an option with this pattern, and this is a flowery crepe. I've made a bomber jacket in the same fabric in the past. I would never wear them together. I just had enough left to make those. So lovely. With these, I do have the original pockets, the slant pocket openings, and all the rest is the same. Super lovely, colorful pants. Why not? The one I've worn the most is the black and white pair, just because it's a long style and I've been able to pair it with solid tops, and I have a matching shirt that I made, like a little jacket, so it's been a set, and I have actually worn that a lot and I feel really good in that black and white outfit. So I always knew that this was a pant pattern that was a sort of classic for me, a type of unicorn woven pant. Fits amazing, super comfortable. I really like a flat front elasticated back because it gives you the same comfort that you have when you pull up your pants and you see it, and the back waist, because it's elasticated, it expands and it moves with you, and it's just so nice. But then you get the flat front, which doesn't give you the bulk that pants that are elasticized all the way around do. I do sew both styles. You know, you will find content on the channel where I've sewn pants that have elastic all the way around, but these have half and half. I think I just chef's kiss, you know. So this waistband is curved. It's got 2 layers on the front, one inner layer that's not interfaced, one outer layer that is interfaced. I usually use a contrasting material for my inner waistband if I'm running short on fabric, and then for the back waistband it's just a rectangle that has an elastic inside. In last year's video I did film in detail how to sew the waistband as per the pattern. It is a little bit of a less conventional method because you sew the back with the waistband separately, then you sew the front with the waistband separately, and then you sew them together on the side seam. So you can see how to do it here. So other than that cool waistband and the fact that they pull on, you have pockets on the sides, have a slant opening. I do have a video on the channel showing you how to do that. Last year I hacked one. It's having a curved opening similar to what you see in jeans, so I will leave that helpful video link down below for you. At the back you have patch pockets, and then the leg is tapered. There is a longer hemline and different cut lines in case you want to do a cuff detail, which means that the hem allowance is just longer so that you can fold it up. So that is one option, and I did do that with one of the pants I made that I'm going to show you today, but then I ended up changing my mind and changing the hem. So more about that later. You need woven fabrics, medium weight I would say. You don't really need the fabric to drape as a requirement, but if it does drape a little, that's fine. For drapey fabrics, I suppose I would use the heavier type like tencel twill or rayon twill, but I actually do prefer a more structured fabric like a linen or a linen rayon blend, a light denim. I just think it's easier to manage, and because the pant doesn't have a lot of ease and it's got a tapered leg, I think a more structured fabric just is going to sit nicer, but that's just my opinion. I use linen rayon a lot, 55% linen, 45% rayon, and the both pants I've made to share with you today, I've used that fabric. One print one solid. Last year's one was the same fabric in the print. As you know, a lot of pattern companies, well, the whole world is running sales on whatever you want to shop for. Pattern's the same, and Sinclair Patterns is running a Black Friday sale through Monday the 28th. 25% off the whole site. You don't need to type in any code, and you will see the discount once you are checking out. So you won't see the patterns discounted there on the website, but you'll see a banner on the top of this website that says that there's a sale going on. I've always enjoyed my makes. I think the height files work really, really well. Especially if you're petite or tall, I think it just gives that something extra with fitting and makes it a little easier. I'll leave you my playlist full of Sinclair pattern makes down below, as well as my affiliate link. If you want to purchase patterns, you can use my link. I do receive a small commission back, but that doesn't affect the amount that you pay, and it is one way you can support my work. So when you look at the pattern pieces, the waist is sort of straight up from the hip, which means, you know, when you pull up your pants, they're going to go through the hips and go up to the waist, and then the way that comes in is with the elastic on the back. So the full hip is your most important measurement there to choose your size. Last year I made a size 16 with a toe file. Sinclair Patterns has height files, which I think are super helpful because your height does really affect the length of your rise, front and back, and of course the length of your legs. So for a pant, having a height file I think is really helpful, because in general my adjustments have been minimal compared to other patterns when they're just drafted for one height. I am a little taller than the average, so I'm usually adding a lot to the legs and doing quite a few changes to the rise, but in this case I felt it was really minimal. Let's talk about fitting a little bit. Last year when I made my pants, I did sew up a muslin with the pattern just as it was. I was doing a pattern test, and Oksana, the designer, she wanted us to just sew a quick dirty pair just as is, because it's more helpful like that for her to see what changes she needs to make in general across the board of testers. So when a pattern test is going on, there's a group of people, and that expands every single size, different heights. So then the designer can sort of look for trends that are happening, fitting issues that are happening with a lot of people, and that's how the patterns get tweaked and finalized before they are released for purchase. So I do sometimes test for Sinclair Patterns, and I was a pattern tester for the puppy pants. So let me just show you a snippet of the muslin I made last year, and based on that, the small fitting change I made. This is my muslin. I made it in a non-stretch fabric, bottom weight type of suiting material, horrible, and the print is ridiculous. I got it on a sale, and this is a size 16 made straight out of the printer, knowing that I needed to lengthen the rise at the front a little bit. And you know, I could have gotten away with not lengthening it. Where I like my pants to hit at my waist, I can feel the tightness here in that front crotch, and I didn't really want that. So I decided I just needed to add 3/8 of an inch here on the front. But at the back, the fit is perfect. It goes right up to my natural waist. Here's the elastic, and I found the fit at the back perfect. No drag lines, weird things, it's just right. I have a patch pocket there that I placed according to the reference, and I think it's a little low. I'm just going to place it about 3/4 of an inch higher. But I'm so happy, and I don't need to add length to the legs. This is perfectly fine. The hem is sewn, so this is how they will finish. And that is a huge exception, that I don't need to add 3 inches or 2 inches to the legs. Almost perfect out of the printer. The adjustment is so minor. It's just to add length in the center front, tapering to nothing on the side seam. When I'm sewing a pattern, it usually takes me a few days from the whole process of start to finish, making the muslin, checking it out. But what I don't do, and it might be helpful, I don't know, I just don't see myself wearing the muslin for the whole day, seeing how that actually behaves on the body with a lot of types of different movements. You know, I don't do that. So last year when I made my muslin, I thought, yeah, it feels amazing. I filmed it for you, walked around the room. I thought, yeah, I just need to lengthen that front rise by 3/8. So it was really easy. I did that at the center front, tapering to nothing on the sides. But I've had the pants for over a year. I have worn them loads, and I always felt, oh, a little bit of tugging at the back. I need a little bit extra rise at the back. Although the muslin felt fine, the pants I made while wearing them just tell me that I need a little extra on the back. The front is absolutely fine. So I decided to go ahead, grab my pattern, and just make that change again. And I'm going to show you the pattern work, super easy. And I'm going to show you one way, and then I changed my mind, and then I did it another way. So see what works for you. This is the back leg of the pants. Essentially, the pants I have fit me well. I could make it just as is because I have already done the fitting and the checking last year when I made these pants. But usually when you wear the pants in real life, you sort of figure out little tweaks that you might need to make next. And I always thought the rise at the back was correct for me, but by wearing them, I think I'm missing about ½ an inch just by the way they feel. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. But if you are working with a brand new pattern you've never worked before, just draw your seam allowances here on the inseam. This one uses 5/8. So I've done that in red here, all along the crotch curve here, all along the top here where you are going to attach the waistband. And here on the side, just for a little bit, you know. On this pattern, you have a little notch that marks where the hip is. From that line, I have drawn across, making sure I cross the grain line mark at a 90-degree angle, perpendicular to that. That is going to be my adjustment line, you know, if I needed it, which I do. The back waistband is just one piece and it gets folded over. So that's going to be the way it is on the top. It's just a fold and the elastic goes inside. So I have drawn the seam allowance here at the bottom of the waistband. I have the seam allowance there at 5/8, and I'm going to pin this just overlapping the seam allowances so that the seam allowances are not counted in the length. So I'm putting one line on top of the other line right there, and I'm just going to put a pin. If you haven't seen the video I made on how to measure your body for pants and how to check it against a pattern, it's the 3rd video on my pants fitting series. You'll see this in a lot more detail, but they are your measurements. I suggest you know what the back is separately to what the front is. And so I measure like this, not counting the seam allowance, just following the curve right here or going all the way up to the top. And I'm getting 17 inches. My rise measures 17.5. So in essence, I should have added that ½ an inch last year. But when I sewed my muslin, I felt it was okay on the body. When I sewed the pants, I felt they were fine on the body as well. But over time when I'm wearing it, I do feel that that ½ an inch is missing. My back rise is 17.5. So I should have added. So I am definitely going to add that now this time around. I am planning to make this pattern more times, so I might as well customize it. So I'm cutting along this line from the center here on the crotch, and I'm going to cut up to the seam allowance line, but not all the way to the edge of the paper. And then from the edge of the paper, I'm going to cut into there, and I'm going to have a little pivot point. And this is now where I'm going to open up the ½ an inch that I need. Just fill it up with paper underneath, and this will be my new back piece. Now this pattern has height files. This is the tall file. That's why I find that this adjustment of ½ an inch is quite little in comparison to other patterns that I made for shorter heights. I've had to add an inch and a half sometimes at the back. I have a pretty long crotch just as is. I am taller, and this is where all my length is. So I am assuming I'm going to add something to most patterns, and I think adding ½ an inch here at the back is really minimal. I think it's going to make a difference in the comfort, and I think these pants are going to fit better than the ones I already have. The ones I have fit fine, but these are just going to be that much better. I'm using contrast yellow paper so you can see the little wedge that I'm adding in here to the center back only. The side seams stay the same, so that is unchanged. Now if you had to add the same front and back, then I would just add the whole thing, including the side seam. Okay, here is the front leg. I've drawn the seam allowance here. I've drawn it here on the inseam for a little bit, all the way on the top and on the side. This is a curved waistband. Created an extended piece for the waistband instead of cutting it on the fold because I want to block fuse. I think it's just easier that way. Your pattern piece will be like this and it will say fold. So that would be the center of the waistband. So in the same way we did at the back, we are going to just overlap the seam allowances here so that the waistband is on the paper like it's going to be sewn. So just place the lines on top of each other there. I'm going to put a little pin, and then you can measure like this. So not from the edge of the paper, from the intersection of seam allowances, and measure at the seam line with your tape measure. It's flexible so you can follow the shape. And that's how you get the total length up to here. Now on the waistband, you see I've drawn the seam allowance on the top too. That's different to the back waistband because with the front, because it's curved, you're going to have two different pieces, one outer waistband, one inner waistband, and there will be a seam on the top at 5/8. So you're measuring there up to the seam allowance to calculate the total length of your front crotch. This is where last time I made the pattern, I have added 3/8 of an inch right here, 1 centimeter. It was very minor. I still feel this is correct for me. When I wear my pants, I don't feel any pulling or strain right there. I think this hits at the front where I want it to be. You know, if you want to check the inseam, you can measure from here, from the intersection of seam allowances all the way down to where the hem is going to be. So at the bottom, you'll see dots. There's a cut line here if you want to do the cuffed version. That's longer. If you want to do a simple hem, just fold that away. And this is where the hem is going to stop at those dots. So you would measure up to there and check the inseam. But, you know, the adjustments would be minor if you're choosing your height file correctly. It will probably be very close to what you need, but you can always customize also. Right here, just below the knee, there is a line where you could customize. So that is there if you need. In my case, I don't need to customize anything. The leg is perfectly fine. With other pant patterns that don't have a toe file, I usually need to add anywhere from 2 to 3 inches. And when I have to add that much, I do it in 2 places at least. So around here and around there, I just divide the leg into 3, and that's how I can keep the shape without distorting it too much. Okay, I had shown you my initial pattern adjustment where I just added at the center back, tapering to nothing at the side seam. And that was the same that I had done with the front. So on the front, I had extra 3/8 there, tapering to nothing at the side seam. At the back, I had 1/2 inch, tapering to nothing. But I decided to go another route, and this is something that you can do if you've needed to add or take away both from the front and the back. I think this could be even more refined. Basically, the front is the smallest amount I'm adding compared to the back because this is 3/8, this is 1/2 inch. So I added the 3/8 all the way across the line right there. You can see there's an extra 3/8 of an inch right there at the side seam with the yellow paper. And then at the back, I kept the 1/2 inch here, but then at the side seam, I have the 3/8. In this case, the wedge that you're opening up here compared to the side seam is less dramatic and can mess less with the grain line of the pants. So this is another option. I take my time with this process. I have a good think. I did it first, then I thought, you know, I could do it a different way. This is an option that you can do if you're doing changes to both the front and the back. And if it's going to make sense, make sure you keep the side seams the same. In this case, it's 3/8, 3/8, both. Keeping the same all the way across the front because that's what I needed at the front. But at the back, I needed 1/2 inch more, so that is opened up a little bit, and this is not a straight rectangle, it's a little bit of a wedge there. But if you only needed to change on one of the legs, then definitely do your wedge and just leave the side seams the same like I had done it originally. Have a think about what you might need, confirm with your test garment first before you cut into your nice fabric. The second way is helpful when you need to make a rise change both to the front and the back. That was my case this second time around. So I hope that's easy to understand. I see this question a lot on Facebook. I do follow a lot of Facebook sewing groups for general knowledge to see the common trends of questions that appear there, people asking for help. It really helps me see what is a general sort of topic. So I see this a lot. I need to add this amount to the back, this amount to the front. They are different. You know, you can't just slash and add the same amount from the centers to the sides on both of these sometimes because you're not adding the same. The whole goal is to have the side seams match and have the same length. So you can see that in this case, I needed 3/8 extra on the center front. I needed 1/2 inch on the center back. So then I could sort of just do a little wedge on the back so that I could have the 3/8 on the side. So have a think about that. That is the way I adjust when I need to change both. I wanted to show you those options so that you can think about your own fitting. Maybe if you haven't even started fitting, go ahead and watch my pant fitting series. I have quite a few episodes there that start from the very beginning, show you how to measure yourself, how to check on the pattern. So much good information there on the road to getting a great fitting pair of pants, and I want all of you to have that experience because it's just awesome to sew your own pair of pants. I do have some sewing to share with you. I've made 2 pants. I want to show you the pattern pieces. These are some of the smaller pieces for the pants. Now I did run out of a little bit of fabric as usual. So this is the back waistband. It's on the fold right there. It's just a long rectangle. This is the pocket lining. That's the one that's going to be sewn onto the slanted area of the front leg. And I just cut this in a matching cotton fabric. It's not linen. And then the pocket facing, the one that completes the hip, because the pants will go like that, that is cut from the main fabric. I have 2 layers of fabric here, one for the inner waistband and one for the outer waistband. The outer waistband is the one that's going to be interfaced, and that's the one that you can see on the top here. I've used white interfacing, and the main fabric is green. And then underneath, I have right sides together, another piece of linen fabric that's going to go on the inside. It won't be seen, it matches, it'll look pretty, but I just didn't have enough fabric to cut 2 of these waistbands with the same fabric. I never feel bad for putting another fabric on the inner waistband. I think it's a little detail you can add and it matches. It's really pretty. This is linen as well, and it's just a little leftover I had. Now for the back patch pockets, there was no way I could get them, so I've used that leather look jersey that I use for binding. And what I've done to eliminate the stretch is put interfacing on the back so it doesn't stretch anymore. That's how I got rid of the stretch. And now this will essentially act like a woven, and I'll be able to top stitch this on. If I show you the main fabric and this, they match pretty well. So yeah, it'll just be a little shiny pocket at the back. I think it'll look cool, and it was the only solution I could find. So you know I like to block views. I haven't cut out my waistband yet, it's still here, but I have my 2 layers on top of each other. I want to cut them both together at the same time. The top layer is interfaced, the bottom layer isn't. So it'll just be super easy now to use my rotary cutter and cut, and then both waistband layers are going to be exactly the same. Now these are just the main legs. We've just been at the iron stabilizing the waistline and the slant pocket opening. So very simple, just a front and a back leg. And you'll see I'm running low on fabric, so I had some creative choices right there to get my pants to come to life with a little bit less fabric. As usual, I like showing you different ways to do things so that you can choose. These techniques apply to any pattern. I've done this with a lot of other patterns also, not just this one. Because I have this alternate technique in my head, I know I can apply it to a garment like this when I'm sewing it. So my way is easier, I find. It's a little more comfortable on the sides, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's on the reverse, but it's got that mix of the flat front and elasticated back. It's super easy to do, so let's see. Here we have the same waistband pieces as the other pants. We're just going to sew it in a slightly different way. This is the back waistband. I have folded one edge in the same way. I have already trimmed that seam allowance down. We'll put that aside. Now the slight difference here with the front is that instead of folding in the inner waistband like that, I did that with the outer waistband because we're going to sew the whole thing in the reverse. So I did the guide stitch on the bottom edge of the outer waistband, the one that's interfaced, the one that I'm using the main fabric for. I'm also using a contrast for the inner waistband here. We're still going to sew these right sides together on the top in the same way, under stitch. All that is the same. It's just that this is different. We've done this inverse. So I'll just go ahead and sew these together. So here are the both front waistbands sewn together. I'm also going to trim this, do the snips when needed because it is a curve, and under stitch. So up to here, as you can see, the only difference is that the outer waistband is the one that has the fold done already. In the other one, it was the inner waistband. And now we understitch. In the same way, we're going to push the seam allowance underneath the inner waistband here. And I'm also going to leave a little bit here without understitching. And I'm also going to stop before getting to the edge. Now this is where it gets very different. I'm going to now take my back waistband and I'm going to place this right sides together with this, matching the folded edge here with the folded edge here and the raw edge with the raw edge. So I'm just going to extend it. They will have the same length, as you can see. They match perfectly. And we're just going to sew this together here and the same on this other side. So we're just going to have a continuous waistband. I find this method a lot easier than the other way and with less bulk. Okay, so now I'm going to head to the iron and press the seam allowance open like this, and then press this like that, so that I have a whole waistband ready to be sewn onto the pants all on the round. Okay, so here's the waistband. It looks a little weird, but will make sense in a second. This is the inner waistband from the front, and I've got a pin right in the center front. I've also put a pin in the center back, and I've got a waistband on the round, seams on the sides right there. Everything's gonna make sense in a second, so let's just leave that there. Now I have pants. After sewing the inseam and top stitching that, you can just go ahead and sew the side seams, and you have basically completed pants minus the waistband. And now we're gonna put the waistband on top like this, and slide the pants inside so that the waistband is right side to wrong side of the pants there. Match the center fronts here, match the side seams, the other side seam, and then just pin it all on the round. And we're going to sew this with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. At the back, we match these pins here at the center, and we keep pinning around. This is much easier than the other method, and you'll see here on the side it will be much more comfortable. So I'll just go ahead, pin it all on the round. If you've sewn all the seam allowances correctly, everything should match exactly the same as the other method. It's just that instead of doing the front and the back separately, we're just going to do it all in one go. So after pinning everything, making sure the raw edges are together, we're sewing this on the round with 5/8 seam allowance. It's just a really long seam, that's all. I'm also going to trim the seam allowance down, head to the iron and press the seam allowance up towards the waistband. Okay, I've turned the pants so that the fabric is right sides out, and you can see the waistband is sewn on like this. Now when we fold this folded edge that we've done previously is going to cover the seam, and we can top stitch from the right side of the pants. And we can do this the whole way around in one go, with exception to small spaces we're going to leave in the side seam so we can thread the elastic at the back, because that still needs to happen. Make sure that fold covers the seam a little bit, and I'm just gonna quickly hand baste this down, so then it's just top stitching. This is the back part of the waistband. That's where we need to put the elastic through. So I want to start threading it from this side. So where that seam is, I'm just gonna leave that gap open for a little bit, like 1.5 inches. I'll also stop about 1.5 inches before this seam, leave a gap, and then sew from here onwards onto the front. So it'll be sewn in a few stages. No drama though. The important thing is just to leave yourself a gap so that we can put the elastic through. Once it's in, then we can close it up later. Okay, so you saw that I sewed this in a few stages. This is the gap that I'm gonna have at the back. For the front, I changed the thread at the bottom to light gray to match this color, so it doesn't look ugly with navy right there. And on this area, it's all navy. So just a few extra steps because I choose to do another fabric in there. I'm gonna remove the basting stitches, and I've got my elastic here. I'm gonna put a safety pin, and then we're gonna put it through the back. Okay. This is the seam, that's the front waistband, this is the back. Here is the opening that I've left. Maybe it should have been a little bit bigger, we'll see. So this is a little finicky, but I still find it easier this way. So I'm managing to pull it through. Once I've got this almost through, I want the elastic to hang over to the front by about 3/8. Okay, now the elastic is inside. I'm just gonna push it towards the front waistband a little bit. There, I can touch it. Okay, I've fiddled with it. I've got some pins holding it in place, and I think it's easier to deal with this side first before continuing to push the elastic through the other side. So I'm gonna sew right in the middle of that seam and then close off that little bit right there. So that side is done, it's all secure, it's fixed in there, and I've just pushed it along until I've got the elastic coming out of this other side. I'm gonna get rid of this safety pin right now and just fiddle with this elastic in there until I can do the same thing I've done on the other side. Have this elastic be inside and coming forward towards the front by a little bit. There we go. I can touch the elastic is right there, and I'll basically do the same thing here. Sew it down and then close the little gap, and that's it. Okay, so there's the elasticated back. This is super flat, really nice to wear on the skin. This allows you to press the seam of the sides towards the back and have less bulk here at the pockets. And overall, I think it's easier. I think it takes a lot less time to do, but it's up to you. I've shown you both ways. You can choose what you want to try. Here is my first pair of poppy pants. Well, from this year, my third actually. I made 2 last year. Printed linen rayon blend, really cool colors. I always saw these to combine with navy. I'm not interested in the other colors. They're not colors I can particularly wear. So anything that goes with this will be navy, just to tone it down a little bit. It is tropical, but it's not so bold. Like the colors aren't so bold, although the print sort of is. Flat front waistband. I have a contrast linen in the inner waistband just because to save fabric. And then the waistband is elasticated at the back. So you saw that the waistband construction in this case was different to the original pattern. In this one, you can sew your pants, have them all sewn up, raw edges. The waistband is sewn separately as you saw it comes together on the reverse, where you sew it here on the right side of the fabric. The inner waistband has already been sewn, so I think it's super easy, super neat. It's really flat and comfortable right there. So that is an alternate method you can use with anything. I used it also with these that are flat front elasticated back. There's no one saying you can't. So there's a little bit of the elastic coming forward here onto the front waistband, and that allows it to be caught in the stitch in the ditch right there. I think this method is super, super easy. Even though it is a print, I still added the patch pockets there. Sometimes I skip them if I don't think anyone will see them, but I just put them in there. After wearing them a few times, because I made these a little while ago, I just felt they were a little bit wider than what I would like. It's got to do with the fabric as well. You know, linen relaxes and it ends up sometimes being a little bigger than what you thought. So I wanted to bring the side seams in, and in that process I was able to create this split hem afterwards, like way after the time I made it. So that's really good. You know, I have separate videos about how to do this because it's not just about the poppy pants. You can do this to any pant. So that's that. I think it looks really nice and adds something special. Inside, super simple. These are the pocket bags, and I have a contrast pocket lining in there. They are really simple pants. I think the fit is outstanding. The comfort is also amazing. Let's see this one paired with navy, because what else? Here's a summary look with my printed poppy pants. I'm the type that's gonna wear these types of printed pants. It does fit with my style. Just pairing it with something a bit more subdued on the top with the navy, I think it's fine. Tucking in my top, you can see the flat front waistband. It is curved and the pockets with a slant opening. And I also have patch pockets at the back, and you can see the slight gathering there with the elasticated feature. Straight waistband on the back. I usually don't sew patch pockets when I sew print pants, but I thought why not? Much more comfortable with the new fitting adjustment I made to the back. I think the fit is near perfection, or at least that's how I feel they are. Here you can see the bottom of the pants. I like this length. I added the split hem detail a while after I'd already made these pants. Love how that looks. I think it shows off the shoes and just lets the pants hang nicer. Love adding that. These are my fourth poppy pants, or second this time around. Just a dark green linen rayon blend. Really nice. You saw my pattern pieces there in the up close and so personal segment, and I also have an inner waistband that is another material. I made my mom a skirt, and I've just had little scraps left over, and I've been using it for random things like inner yokes and inner waistbands, and I think it's really nice. If I see this, it reminds me of her, so that's nice. I didn't have enough fabric for the patch pockets, so you can see these are made of that leather look jersey that I use for a lot of projects. It is a neat fabric, but I eliminated that stretch by interfacing it with non-stretch interfacing. So it doesn't stretch vertically or horizontally, and it just behaved like a woven. I would not have been happy to make patch pockets with a knit as is, because it can end up stretching and causing it to end up wavy and ripply, and it can look really awful. So that is my trick there to using knit fabric as woven fabric. Just interface it. and then it won't stretch anymore. I initially had made this one with a cuff detail at the bottom, but after wearing it a few times, I found the cuff bulky over my shoes. So I thought I'm just gonna do the normal hem, and then I thought I'm just gonna do a slit. So this is a different type of slit. It doesn't have a seam going down the middle of the pants. This one's in a separate video also, because you can do this with anything, not just with the poppy pants. So when there's content that is sort of general, I prefer to make a separate video on it, and I think gives it all that something extra that I really like. In last year's video, I filmed in detail how to sew the waistband as per the pattern, and it's a little different because you construct the back with the waistband separately, you construct the front with the waistband separately, and then at the very end you unite them here at the side seams. So it's a little bit different, non-traditional to how you usually sew pants. Let's see this one styled in a more wintry way with grey and black. I think they go with green perfectly. Here is a wintry look with my green poppy pants. These are in a solid. I have also added a little slit on the front just for a little bit of fun. They are the same size. They are exactly the same as the others. I've just paired them with sweater, scarf and some boots. The fit is great as always. Love these pants. They're classic. I think they're really worth sewing. I do have leather look catch pockets. They were a knit, but I added interfacing to eliminate the stretch, and I think it works really well. Pockets are there, and the flat front waistband, maybe you can see it better here with this solid pair of pants. I think they are so amazing. They fit so well and they're so comfortable to wear. Here you can see the elasticated feature on the back, which gives you the comfort, and the little slit I had fun adding. I think it shows off your shoes, your boots, your sandals, whatever you're wearing. I think it's just gonna look so nice, and I really enjoyed adding this on a while after I'd sewn them already. So I love my new pants. I think they're really cool. I think they're really different. This printed one I can see myself wearing in hot weather, and I live in Brazil, so that's basically almost the whole year. I need to make myself another navy top that is this tone of navy. I have other navy tops that are not the same tone. It's like when your blacks don't match or your whites don't match. I'm really particular about that, and I've been looking for some navy that's gonna match. The top I paired with this is a ready to wear. That doesn't fit me very well. It doesn't have darts. I just put it on because it's the same navy, but I need to make myself a better one. Anyway, I do love this. I think it's really cool. The slits I added were a last minute thing. I made these pants quite a while ago. I had already worn them out, and yeah, the fact that the linen stretched out a little bit is something I expect, and sometimes it happens. That allowed the little slit to happen right there. I love that. I do have the separate video showing you how to do all these slits. The previous video, I will link it down below. That is general content, you know, those things can work for anything, so I didn't put it in this video here. The leather look patch pockets, that was amazing that I just had the right color to match. I really don't want to make pants in a solid fabric with no patch pockets. I think it just does not look that great. I find something's missing there. So I'm glad that worked out. I sewed the little slit just being inspired from doing the other one on the other pair. I thought, yeah, there's another way, I want to show that as well. So I added this on after the fact. This linen, this fabric is sort of different to the other one where it hasn't stretched out that much, so I didn't feel that I needed to bring them in. It was just the other one. You find different types of weaves and everything, so not all of them behave the same. So I'm super happy with these. I think this is an excellent pattern. I think it works well for a lot of people. It's really fun to sew up. I do have a lot of content showing you how. Now you can see how to sew it two ways, the waistband. And I love showing you different ways so you can try them and then choose what you like the best. You know, with sewing, there isn't just one way. There isn't just one correct way and one incorrect way. Everything is sort of gray. You end up with the same nice result. I just wanted to show you the way I like the best. Don't forget to check out Sinclair's Black Friday sale. It runs through Monday the 28th. 25% off site-wide. You don't need to type in any code. Just purchase and it'll appear at checkout. Hope you have fun looking at all the patterns. That's all from me today, and I'll see you again very soon with something cozy. Bye.